So the facility registration, submission types, and when they make each submission, you're going to have your initial registration. And right now, firms, the cosmetic manufacturing firms, are registering as we speak. The system, we completed the testing at the end of the year last year, and the system literally went right online after that. So folks, if you need to register, you can already start registering now. I will make you aware that the FDA issued a compliance policy for registration in cosmetic product listing, that basically made the deadline for all of this July 1st, 2024. They issued that last year on November 8th, 2023. So for registration, you have until July 1st, 2024. That's your deadline for the initial registration. And then after the initial registration, you're going to have an amended registration. And the amended registration is for making changes to the registration information, which you would have to do within 60 days of anything changing in the information. So, for instance, if you're a contract manufacturing organization and you get a new client and you're now manufacturing for a new brand name or a new responsible person, you need to update your registration information within 60 days of that starting. This also includes any changes that result in cancellation of the registration or deregistration. And then you have another type of submission, which is the renewal of registration. You have to renew your registration for cosmetics biennially, which is every 2 years. And FDA is providing for an abbreviated renewal to confirm no changes. So you'll have an abbreviated or shorter process. I just want to reiterate that the amended registration includes if you have to deregister. A lot of times facilities will think that if they are no longer manufacturing, they can just let their information lapse in the FDA system. And please understand that allowing your information to lapse is not the same thing as fulfilling your statutory obligation to deregister your facility. So put it on your calendar, and please remember that registration is not a one and done thing. FDA expects you to keep this information up to date and accurate. So what information is included in the product listing submission? Well, the facility registration number of each facility where the cosmetic product is manufactured or processed, and this information isn't going to be disclosed to the public. That's the first piece. Then you have the contact of the responsible person, and you're going to have the product name. And you're going to have the cosmetic product categories, and you're going to have the list of ingredients. You got to include there any fragrances, flavors, or colors. You're going to have a product listing number if any has previously been assigned, and please be aware that if it hasn't been assigned, then the first time that you list, FDA will assign one for each product. Then you have your types of submissions. It's very similar as for registration processes. You're going to have initial, update, and abbreviated renewals. Then you've got some optional information. The parent company, the type of business, the image of the label, the product webpage, the professional, whether or not the product is professional use, your DUNS number, unis, additional contact information. I do want to point out, I thought it was interesting that an image of the label is an optional piece of information to go in. I think that eventually that's probably going to change and it won't be optional, but I don't know for sure. It just struck me as curious because in every other type of product register or product listing operation, or product listing type of deal with FDA, you typically will include a JPEG of the actual label of the product. So I thought it was interesting that with cosmetics, they're optional here. And then unis, if you're familiar with the FDA substance registration system, a uni is assigned to a unique molecular entity. A uni, it stands for unique ingredient identifier, and you have a preferred substance name, FDA preferred substance name, along with alphanumeric code that is considered the unique ingredient identifier, and it's used for electronic submissions and registration purposes so that you can identify the unique molecular entity or substance that you're dealing with, and that'll go along with your list of ingredients. But again, this is optional information. You can add additional contact info that can go along, and that's for anyone that is associated with the actual listing submission. And then once again, FDA requests that individuals submitting registration listing information attest to the accuracy and veracity of the information submitted under penalty of federal law. So the product listing submission types and when to make each submission. Again, we've got the initial listing coming up, and it's already happening right now. The firms are listing products right now because after the compliance policy, same compliance policy from November 8, 2023 last year, FDA stated that they will be enforcing the product listing requirements on July 1st, 2024. So that's your registration and listing, your initial registration and listing deadline, July 1st, 2024. And then the other types of product listing submissions and when to make each submission. You've got your update to listing content, which is for making changes to product listing information. You have a requirement to update it annually. And then that also includes any product discontinuations or delistings. You've got a renewal of listings. You have to renew them or update them, the product listings annually. And FDA is providing, again, for an abbreviated renewal, confirm of no changes, okay? Please be aware, and I'm going to say this again about the product listings here, that a lot of times folks don't understand that there's a statutory requirement for them to delist. You can't just allow your product listing to lapse or just go untended. You actually have to go in there and tell FDA that you're no longer manufacturing it and say whenever it's being out of distribution. So you're actually going to have to delist it. So put it on your calendar and remember that this is not a one and done thing, and FDA is actually expecting you to keep this information accurate and up to date.